we've had some big surprises this year in the NBA. I mean, how good the Cavs have been, the Clippers still being pretty decent despite losing Paul George, the Pelicans just falling off a fucking cliff. But maybe the biggest surprise in the NBA has been the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, some of these rebuilds have just been insanely quick. Like the Cavs you mentioned were just in the lottery making top 3 picks. Now they have the best record in the NBA. You have OKC just killing out West with their quick rebuild. And the Rockets are another team. We're constantly picking the top 5. And now they're fighting for one of the top spots out West.
Before we start talking about the Houston Rockets, if you haven't already, make sure this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. Yes, like you mentioned, NBA rebuilds can take a lot of different forms. You can have your, Sacramento's, Detroit's, Orlando's, wait a decade plus. You can have like Cleveland or, San Antonio even, where you wait, 4 or 5 years until you get the right star, the right foundational pieces. And then you got your rebuilds that like happen overnight, like an OKC where it took them 2 years, or like Cleveland in 2014 when LeBron came back. Houston kind of fits into like that second category. I think it was just been surprising is just how quickly they've risen. Like for anyone who doesn't remember, after they traded James Harden, they finished 2 straight seasons with the worst record in the NBA. And the year after that, they were tied for the second worst record in the NBA.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were that bad. Like I knew they were bad, but the worst record in the NBA?
Back to back.
Yeah, that is tough. After that third straight, just terrible season, Steven Silas, he gets the boot. And even though they weren't winning, like there was a foundation being built. The bottom level, we were putting in some concrete here.
Right. Yep.
Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., Sengun, Jabari Smith, KJ Martin, Tari Eason. Like that's a decent collection of young players. Some of them have moved on, but Jalen Green, Sengun, and Jabari Smith are key pieces to this team to this day. But the offseason was an extremely hectic one. They bring in Ime Udoka to be their head coach. Obviously a fantastic coach and what would prove to be a fantastic hire, but Ime had the stuff going on in Boston. We're not going to get too much into it.
Yeah.
Don't want to worry about getting demonetized or anything here.
This ain't TMZ.
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
not about that. Secondly, they took Amen Thompson 4th overall and Cam Whitmore 22nd overall in the 2023 NBA draft. Thompson was considered like an insane athlete and a great defender, but probably needed some development on the offensive end. And Whitmore was projected by a lot of places to go in the top 10, but he ended up falling to 22. And then thirdly, it was reported that Rockets management and Ime Udoka were pushing for like an aggressive approach to free agency, so they brought in Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, and I found this baffling. Not like the going all in to win because they didn't have their first round pick, so it didn't make sense to be bad, but like VanVleet at this point in his career, I was like, he's good, not great. And lest we forget, this was Dylan Brooks coming off that disastrous playoff series for the Grizzlies against the Lakers where LeBron was just busting his ass the entire time. Busted him so badly that the Grizzlies said, we're not bringing you back under any circumstances, and he got a 4-year, $80 million contract from the Rockets. You were a bit more optimistic than I was, but I was like, this will not work.
I mean, the contracts did seem super bloated, but they had the money to spend, and my logic was like, you had some young key pieces here. You're bringing in Amen Thompson, another top 5 pick. You have Jalen Green, Jabari Smith. Like, you had the young guys there. You didn't necessarily need to keep tanking. You don't want to get stuck in that losing culture like the Hornets are, where you're just awful forever. Like, bring in some veterans, bring in some guys who have won before. Fred VanVleet's won a title before. Dylan Brooks, not necessarily a ton of winning, but he's been in the playoffs before. Like, at least get to a point where you're okay. You're not losing games by 30. I think sometimes you have a young team, you have some losing seasons, you just need to turn the culture around a little bit, and I think these moves did it. They were overpays, but they did do that.
The offseason did conclude, though, with them parting ways with Kevin Porter Jr., despite signing him to an $80 million extension only a year prior, and him being their second leading scorer the prior season. They sent him off to OKC after his domestic assault charge, where he was eventually waived. So again, I was not a big believer in this team already, and then right before the season starts, you lose your second leading scorer from the season prior for nothing.
At least they weren't the worst team in the league the following season, though. They go 27-35 after 62 games. That's a 12th seed out west. They did have a massive gap to try and make the play-in. With only 20 games left in the season, they're 5 games behind the Lakers, so it basically basically looked like no shot at the play-in. Kind of made sense. That was the expectations. But then they ripped off that 11-game win streak. I remember we made a video on them at the time.
Yeah.
It did kind of seem fluky because if you look at the schedule, like it was a very light schedule. Their best wins, they had like some good wins at Sacramento versus Cleveland, at Sacramento versus Cleveland, and then at OKC. And then immediately like the schedule ramps up right after that and they get back to losing. But sometimes this happens with up and coming teams where like they don't necessarily have a good year as a whole, but they like show the flash and they have like this one stretch during it. And I think that's what happened here.
Yeah, I mean, you can question the schedule all you want, but 11 in a row is 11 in a row.
That's pretty good.
No matter who you're playing, especially for a team that's 8 games under 500, to win 11 in a row is crazy. And I mean, they got within 1 game of the Golden State Warriors for the 10th seed. So like they almost made it, but you know, fall just short. So the all-in approach, I mean, it bared fruit in year 1, but year 2, I'm not exactly sure what either of us expected. Like I went back and I looked at our preseason predictions and we were both focusing in on like, we both think they're going to try to make a big trade during the season, but neither of us really touched on what we thought they were going to do in terms of wins and losses. I would say I probably thought like, you know, 7th, 8th seed. I mean, the West is just, it's so tough. It's so hard to predict 7th seed play in, but they have exceeded any and all expectations.
I mean, at the time of this recording, 32-14. They have the Grizzlies tomorrow on the road. Like that could end their win streak, but even if it does, like still just a fantastic season. The biggest surprise in the NBA, which is saying a lot because the Cavs have been super surprising. The defense has been incredible. I mean, Ime Udoka is your head coach. That's going to happen. And they're deep as hell. Like they're 10, 11 players deep. I mean, Reed Shepherd, they had to send to the G League because he wasn't getting enough run. He's been balling out there.
Yeah.
You have Jalen Green, like not necessarily our favorite type of player, these scoring guards that aren't fantastic on defense, but Jalen Green's been playing better recently. He's been shooting the lights out, gives you 21.3 points a night. Sengun, you know, your Jokic zero sugar with the 19 and 10,
homeless
5
man's,
assists.
Homeless man's Jokic.
Okay, I want to be a little bit nicer. We're hyping him up, but it's true. And then Van Vliet and Dylan Brooks, the veterans there, they've also been shooting the lights out recently. So there's a lot to like about this team.
Yeah, but the big development, especially the last month of the season, has been Amen Thompson. And quick shout out to myself, our New Year's resolution video we made. I said for the Rockets, they got to start starting Amen Thompson. And he started every game in January, and he's making me look like the smartest guy on earth, which is an incredible thing.
You cooked with that.
Because I'm not that, but I got that one thing right. And January, he's been awesome. 18.5 points, 10.9 rebounds a game, 56.7% shooting, helped lead them to back-to-back wins against Cleveland, one at home and one on the road. And then just recently on the road in Boston, had his big breakout performance. A career-high 33 points on 13 of 19 shooting, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and a game-winning floater with 0.7 seconds left to seal the win for the Rockets. Here's the thing, he's playing this well, and he's still not a finished product by any means. I mean, he followed up that career high with just like a pedestrian 11-point outing against Atlanta, and also like his 3-point shot really isn't there. It's way better than it was last year though, so you can see at least like, okay, he's improving, but it's crazy to think that like with all the improvement he's shown this season, he's still got a lot that he can get better at. And the thing that's got to be great to see for Rockets fans is so far in his career, he seems like one of those kids who's willing to put in the extra effort to get better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Him and Tari Eason on defense have just been insane. Apparently they got the nickname the Terror Twins because their defense is just crazy. Amen Thompson more on ball. Tari Eason can do it off ball. Recently, they have just been killing it. I mean, beating the 2 best teams in the East, 2 of those games being on the road. Amen Thompson had that game winner. For a young team to be doing that this early on the road, especially, like they have a great road record. Just incredible to see. Like, honestly, I can't even believe how well they're playing right now.
Yeah, and those 2 wins, especially against Cleveland and Boston, has led a lot of people to ask, like, could this team actually be a contender this season? And I would say my initial response would be no. Because yes, they have some veterans, right? You know, Van Vliet and Dylan Brooks have been around the block. Like you said, Van Vliet won the title with Toronto. But your main young guys, you know, Green, Sengun, Thompson, Jabari Smith when he comes back from injury, they don't have any playoff experience whatsoever. And as we saw with OKC last year, like, that matters. And also, like, looking at the construction of the roster, I do think it's built to win in the modern NBA. Like, it's defensively minded, it's deep. That's what we've seen from the past couple of champions. But also the past couple of champions, like Boston had Tatum and Jalen Brown. You know, the Nuggets had Jokic, the Warriors had Curry. I don't think the Rockets have like that one superstar that you can rely on in a crisis. Maybe in the coming years, you know, Jalen Green develops into that, or more likely Amen Thompson develops into that. But right now, this year, I'm not quite sure they're a contender yet. expect. But in addition to questioning if the Rockets are actually a contender, a lot of people have also asked, are they going to make a big trade this season, like we predicted? And well, their GM did come out and say that they're not going to, which kind of throws cold water on our prediction. You know, you still hear their name thrown in and around for various guys. I will say, if they can get De'Aaron Fox, I think it's something to look at.
Yeah, maybe. It depends on what they'd have to give up. My big thing, hold out for Book.
Okay.
I think Book could be the perfect fit, playoff experience, even finals experience. He's that scorer. He's that go-to guy. A shooter could help their shooting problems. They're shooting better now, but over the course of the season, they're not the best shooting team. I'd love to see Book go there. If, you know, things in Phoenix are already going downhill, like I'm just assuming he's gonna move at some point.
Okay.
Do not trade for Jimmy. Don't even get near it.
No.
Block the number, block the email, whatever. Do not get Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think if you can get Fox, I think maybe you could try for like, you know, Van Vliet, maybe Tari Eason and some picks for, you know, Fox and salary for like a Kevin Huerter or something like that. Gives you a clear upgrade at point guard, and Fox is only 27, so he can like, you know, grow and nurture with the young core. I think I'd take a look at that, but it seems like that's not going to happen. Everything is pointing to Fox going to San Antonio. But overall for the Rockets, I mean, what a season. I don't think they're a contender this year, but they got an excellent young core. Amen Thompson is turning into one of the best young prospects in the entire NBA. They got a good mix of young players and veterans for their supporting cast, and after 2026, they're going to have control of all of their first-round picks back.
Yeah, shit is just ridiculous. You got OKC already dominated. Wemby looks scary. This Houston team, probably forgetting some other teams here. I mean, the Blazers.
The Blazers, yeah.
We're coming up. We're winning games. Scoot's coming. Like, the Western Conference has always been stacked, and I guess it just forever will be stacked.
That's the video, guys. What do you think of the Houston Rockets this season? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.